Hey, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing my story and talking about this transition and accepting and embracing our inner teenager. I've heard this concept from a spiritual teacher, but it never really clicked until recently, like really recently, which is why I'm able to share this message on this inner teenager piece of things. Like, I've done a lot of work on the inner child, but at some point we transition into this inner teenager. And you know, the inner teenager, the rebellious, the uncertain, the attitude teenager. We're going to be diving into why that happens, why we transition from inner child into the teenager, and what's really going on in all of that, so that you can learn to embrace it and accept it and move through it a little easier to create the deep connection in your life and your relationships that you truly desire. So don't go nowhere. Tony Fonte. How you doing? I help you reignite the 4 P's: your passion, your purpose, your power, and your playfulness to create a deeper connection in your life and your relationships. Boom. So let's dive in to the message of accepting and embracing your inner teenager. And I want to start off with my story and how I'm actually currently going through that phase of it, and that's how this even came about. I've heard the terminology from another spiritual teacher a while back, talking about when you do a lot of inner child healing, the next phase you'll move in is the pissed off teenager phase. And I wasn't quite sure about that, and I was like, no, I think it's all inner child, which in essence it is. It's just a phase of the child. It's the evolution as you go from childhood to teenager to adult. And when you're used to not having this identity within yourself, and you're learning to go from the identity of a kid and your identity being that of your parents, and as you begin to transition into adulthood, you go into the teenager phase to get to the adult phase. And if you have kids, you have teenagers, or you know of people who have those, and chances are you do, you probably often hear the rebellious side of the teenager, the sass, the attitudes, the constant battle and confrontation, always battling, rebelling, always, just something's going on. This resistance and this constant arguing with your teenager, and maybe you have been that one. I didn't do it too much because I got my ass beat by my dad if I did. It's happened a few times, my mom as well. But I still had attitude. And I remember someone saying, as my daughter was getting ready to transition into being a teenager, everybody's like, wait till she becomes a teenager. She's going to want less and less to do with you, and it's going to be sassy, and she's going to have attitude, and she's going to rebel. And she does have attitude. The thing is we don't argue much. And I'm not going to get into that here, but she does. And over time, I've realized this understanding of why teenagers do that in the first place. Because I kind of alluded to it right in the beginning. As they begin this transition, they're trying to find their own identity. They're unaware of it. They're unconscious of it, but they're trying to understand who they are, who they're going to be in this world as they start transitioning towards being an adult and having their own life. Their identity has been with their parents. And we often get stuck in that identity, especially on the dynamics of how childhood is. We often get stuck in this dynamic of the parents. So as we begin this transition, and we're being pushed because it's a natural path, the universe, source, your higher self is all pushing you into this next realm of who you are. It gets confusing. It gets uncertain. They're unclear, but they're having this battle with some of these ideas and beliefs that are coming up, but also this confusion and this uncertainty. And most of this is unconscious. They lash out. They don't even know why they're lashing out. They have these thoughts and these ideas of, parents are stupid, parents don't know anything. Because it's their way of being able to separate and cut that cord to have their own independence, to have their own independent thoughts, their own way of life and living. That's their only way they know how to do it. Again, it's all unconscious. They're not aware of it. I even asked my daughter, do you know why you're doing it? No, I have no idea, and it's confusing, and I don't like it. And then they're beating themselves up because they're not being so nice sometimes. And they have attitude, and they're pushing back. And I usually laugh at it because it doesn't affect me as much because I've done enough work to get to that point. And I haven't had the aspects of what people said, oh, wait till she gets to teenagerhood. It's going to be so much more challenging. It's been fun for me. It's been great. Is it easy all the time? Nope. Still learning, still growing. We have our moments. So they move into this and they're not understanding of it, right? They're not understanding of this teenager. So how does that equate to us in our own inner child? How does that work? So I've been going through a lot of this transition and understanding because I've given my identity. I've lost my identity oftentimes in relationships, in life, in labels, in jobs, in careers, in business, and everything, which we tend to do. We tend to do those things. Our identity becomes something outside of us, not having a true sense of self and understanding of who we are. So when we go on the spiritual path, we go on the spiritual awakening journey, and we begin healing and breaking these generational cycles, and we're trying to understand who we are, and we're doing a lot of inner child healing. We then move into the pissed off, angry, uncertain teenager, pushing back, pushing people away. In a sense, it's not that we're trying to push them away. We're creating this distance between them. Sometimes what we want and what we're trying to figure out, and we love being with people, but at the same time, we are in this hermit mode, trying to understand ourselves more, wanting more reflection, and you push back. So you have all these different thoughts in your head of these conversations, these arguments that you would have with someone, and you're going, what the fuck? Maybe you're having some of this right now and you're going, oh my God, I sound not as crazy as I thought I was. You're probably still crazy, but because I am. But it's a good thing. But it's like you have these thoughts of these arguments you may have with some of the close people in your life that most likely wouldn't even happen anyway. And you become so aware, you're going, why is that happening? Why am I having that shit come up? And then it hit me. As I'm working with my coach, and this was just last week that I had this really big epiphany, this really big breakthrough, and this is why I'm able to share this now. I realized it's my inner teenager. I'm shedding so many layers of stuff and moving forward and taking this imperfect action that it's like I'm learning my own identity right now. So I'm having to step back. And I'm in more of a hermit mode, which then that creates this feeling sad and feeling bad at times, guilt and shame because I'm not wanting to be around my people, but I love being around my people at the same time, and being confused about why am I that way, and going through these different phases and trying to navigate it and try to understand it. And it's realizing, wait, this is the inner teenager phase. This is what that one spiritual teacher said was going to happen. And I wasn't clear on it because I wasn't there yet. And now I'm going, oh, I get it. Getting pissed off, feeling this rage and this anger coming up, which is all back from generations, back from childhood, past lives even, coming up to be released and understood. And the only way we know is we rebel by stepping back and learning to focus more on what we like and what we don't like, and trying new things and experimenting and doing what we're put here to do, shining our light, speaking our truth. But in order for us to do that, we have to step back. Doesn't mean we have to be reactive and to have those fucking arguments and allow that rage out. We can move through that rage, move through that anger, that uncertainty that's coming up, because we're moving more into the unknown and into the uncertain and unfamiliar. So the familiar is getting freaked out. The shadow and the ego is getting freaked out. And it's okay because it's the inner teenager wanting to be seen and wanting to be heard and wanting to be understood. even though they're trying to see themselves and understand themselves and hear themselves at the same time. So in order to really do that, we have to step back, and it's okay to step back to understand who you are, because you are remembering your true identity. What you left behind as a kid, what you left behind as a teenager, and you stepped into adulthood and you abandoned yourself and rejected yourself to go get your needs fulfilled outside of you. Now you're coming back home to you. Now you're grounding back into you. You're feeling more safe within you. Does that make sense? Are you feeling that? Just know that it's okay. Sometimes we have to step back to listen to ourselves, to feel ourselves. We're still taking action towards what we want to create, the desired purpose that we have, to create the connections that we desire in our life and our relationships. Even if you're currently in a relationship, sometimes we have to step back. We communicate it, but we step back for a moment. I'm trying to understand myself. No, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but I'm moving through this. Because guess what? Your partner is going to do that as well. This is why it's so important to communicate, so that you could both hold space for each other. And if you're both going through it at the same time, well, you're fucking screwed. I'm just kidding. You just communicate it and you do the best you can with what you have in the moment, and you're navigating it together, and make it fun. And learn to make it fun, and be able to laugh at it and laugh at yourself as you're moving through all this shit and the chaos. By just merely acknowledging it and verbalizing it, you diffuse the possibility of the rage coming out, the shit coming out. I know that when I'm feeling some stuff, I tell my daughter, I'm fucking crabby right now. So if anything happens and I say something, it's not you, it's me. And most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, it never happens. Occasionally, she's like, you are crabby. Go somewhere. She does that because she's allowed to call me out too, and I don't take offense to it because I do my shit. I know that. She does the same thing. Sometimes I have to call her out and say, hey, you need to go. Too much. You've gone too far with that. And it's just like that. That's how I do it. There's no yelling, there's no screaming, there's none of that, because she's not triggering anything inside me. So step back, reflect, and know that it's okay. That you're not fucking going completely crazy. Oftentimes when we're on this spiritual awakening journey, we feel like we're going crazy sometimes when we're going through the shadow work and the inner work. But as you transition from the child healing, once you do a lot of that and you're moving to the next phase and you're actually taking action towards your purpose, towards the passion and driving, you're learning to reignite those 4 P's. Be ready. Be ready, because this is going to come up. This is going to be coming up. Breathe through it, feel through it, and don't hold it into yourself. Yes, you need to step back so you can acknowledge, but you can still interact how you feel like you can interact with the people you care about and you love. It may be less for a moment. It may be less for a time while you're figuring things out and you're understanding your identity, because we have to step back so we can create our own identity. We just don't have to be dicks about it like teenagers can be, right? And I've said that to my daughter. I'm like, hey, you're being a dick right now. And a little bit later, she'll be like, I'm sorry. Because it's just like, you're shocking the state, right? You're breaking the state with them. That's a Tony Robbins term. But learn, just know that when you're stepping back, it's because you're understanding who you are. You're becoming your own identity, and you're learning more, which you have to. It's like you're being pushed back to reflect on that, so then you can show up more powerfully in your relationships, show up more powerfully in your life. I hope this is fully resonate with you. This is a very powerful message for me to share, and just as I process this more myself. And if you want guidance, do not do this alone. You don't have to do it alone. If you want guidance on how to reignite the 4 Ps, how to navigate this inner child, reach out. I have links below that'll help you decide and figure out what resonates most with you. And I would love to freaking work with you. Whether it's in just a program, a self-paced program, whether it's the free stuff, whether it's one of my masterminds, I'd love to work with you. The links will be below. I'll see you in the next episode of the Laughing Through Life show. Peace.